Hi guys, how are you today? It's Wednesday, or it's Thursday, 2 days after the election, and yeah, life is good. Sun is shining, a little cooler. Weather reports say that I'm probably going to be slammed inside over the next little while, and it's all well and good. Not too concerned about it. It's just is what it is. And, whether I speak for 5 hours today or 5 minutes today, it's all the same thing. I'm honing my skill sets, just letting the universe speak through me as opposed to trying to manipulate other people for their time and energy, and just relaxing, enjoying myself, and basking in the fact that we had a free and fair election and both sides seem comfortable with the results. So it's all good. And yeah, today's going to be about why the election turned out the way it was and my thoughts on what could be better, what could go better, and the way that if I were in charge of things, what I would do. So, step back, relax, grab your cup, and remember, greatness starts with the first sip. So, I went down a rabbit hole the last couple of days ever since the results came out, and having not followed the election at all because I try to tune out the news as much as possible, but something clicked inside me over the weekend said, this is important. This is going to affect my life going forward. And whichever way that it turns out, there's a reason why I needed to immerse myself into what was going on. So I did some things yesterday that I very rarely do. I listened to the Megyn Kelly podcast. I watched The View. I watched a whole bunch of different talking heads. And I realized something. America is changing, and it's changing along a divide between the educated, people with college degrees and formal education, and those that grew up self-made and through that way, not going to college, but learning skills that have propelled them through life. And right here, right now, the reason that I'll state in my own mind, the reason for the election results and the divisiveness through society right now is based on the education system. And what I mean by that is the education system is designed not to teach you how to think, but what to think. And unfortunately, it needs to change. And it can change. And I can see it changing. And I know what needs to be done to change the education system. And that's what I'm all about right at this moment in time. The education system needs to turn on its head because encoded in our DNA is everything that has happened, can happen, and will happen. What that means is you already know everything. I know everything. You know everything. Donald Trump knows everything. Kamala Harris knows everything. It's within inside of us. What we lack is the ability, and it's a limitation of language, to express what we already need to know. And there's a focus on trying to hammer into people's skulls things that they already know. And it's not about what you know, it's about how to express what's already inside of you. So if you are trying to become a doctor, you have to sit through classes time and time again, learning information, being able to regurgitate it, and doing it, getting that gold star by regurgitating in an exam what you're supposed to know. And what is taken away is the ability to think freely, to accept the energy around us, to accept the knowledge that we already know it. We just lack the ability to express ourselves in a way that shows what we know. And society tries to dictate what we should know as opposed to allowing us the freedom to express our own ideals and view the evidence as we see it from our own perspective, which is unique and individualized as a fingerprint or a snowflake. And that's the key. And I'm having a hard time expressing it myself, even though I know it's inside of me. I lack the fundamental language to express that I believe in each one of you. I believe you know exactly everything that's ever happened, can happen, and will happen because I know that it's encoded in your DNA. And I know that you can trust the science, that everything is made out of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. And because of that, you can create anything. And you already know this at a base level. But you're inundated with jargon and on both sides and ridicule and self-righteous indignation, and you don't freely express yourself. The freedom of speech is a fundamental right because it's through speech and the transference of ideas that allow us to come to our own conclusion. And when you start beating on people, people are only given respect if they follow what society dictates they should follow instead of embracing all sides, instead of embracing both sides of the same coin. And that's what it's really all about. Fundamentally, if we only absorb our news from one perspective, we're going to close ourselves out and start judging people that have been exposed to a different mode of being and a different way of being. And neither of them are superior or inferior. It's all the same thing. We are each on our own path. And the way that society tries to mandate how we are supposed to think is going to fall on deaf ears to those that have experienced a different way of being, those that open their eyes to new possibilities, as opposed to trying to do the same thing each and every day, regimented. And so if the education system flips on its head and instead of trying to say what to think or how to think, but opening up yourself to the possibilities of thinking of what scholasticism really means and trusting the evidence around you, trusting that you can change reality completely through your thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, and actions when you take away judgment, jealousy, envy. And I'm so stoked for what can be, the abilities that society can create. And thank God Donald Trump won because it opened my eyes to what's going on in this world. And it's not about the ivory tower, and it's not about Main Street, and it's not about the rural communities. It's about embracing a new way of thinking. It's not an us versus them policy. I believe each person's right. Each person's opinion is correct. And that's what people fail to recognize because they're taught to think in a certain way. They're taught what to think as opposed to how to embrace everything that's around us. And it's such an eye opener. It's such an epiphany that we're brainwashed by the media that we absorb. And the reason that Donald Trump won the election is because he reached out to a different segment of society that isn't brainwashed by the mainstream media, as it's called, but absorb their media in a different way. And the mainstream media gets upset because the alternative media isn't regulated in the same way. But the reason that it flourishes, the alternative media, is because it doesn't dictate how we're supposed to think or try to spin facts and try to tell us the opinions that we're supposed to have. And the opinions that we're supposed to have are the opinions that are within inside of us, and each one of them is valid. And you can't pigeonhole people based on their race, sex, creed, anything, because we are all individual. We all have a different perspective. And when you try to stereotype white men as the patriarchy or uneducated white women, which was one of the comments that I heard one of the talking heads say, blaming uneducated white women for voting for Trump, they're trying to put their own ideas onto somebody else. And you can't do that. You have to accept that each person is an individual, and you cannot look at collectivism as a mode of how to live your life. Each person's cultural perspective is different, and each cultural perspective is equally valid. And once we stop trying to maintain or mandate how you must think if you want to succeed in life, you're going to create a new reality. And I'm going to hammer away at this for a couple of days probably until my mind comes up with the best way and the clearest way to express it, because that's what Coffee with Cam's all about, is me saying what's alive for me in the present moment in order to hone my message, become a better speaker, and open myself up to new opportunities, new ways of being, new thoughts of how I can create a better society. And I can change the education system. And I can do that on a daily basis by asking people, why do they feel that? Not what they should feel, or judging them from their cultural perspective or their upbringing or what society dictates on how people should think, but ask them, why does an idea resonate with you? Why are you afraid of somebody else's way that they live their life? Why are you judgmental for a way that somebody else lives their life? And I just need to open myself up, not to a collectivism, but to meeting each person that I interact with individually on the level, accepting their way of being and not trying to convince them that my way is correct, because my way isn't correct. My way is only correct for me. It's not correct for anybody else. And I'm going to keep slugging away, working towards that, because I believe wholeheartedly that everybody is right. There is no wrong. All there is what resonates with you and your path and your expansion towards creating your best possible life. And I'm going to start harping back onto message that I've always said. Once you realize that what happens externally is not going to make you happy, that happiness comes within you, you can start to change. Once you realize that every person you've ever interacted with you has set you up with the lessons to bring you to the here and now, that's when you can evolve. That's when you can transcend the us versus them and the divisive culture wars and the educated versus the uneducated, the blacks versus the white versus the Indians versus the Asians versus the Chinese versus whatever. We are all equal. All of us. It's not about race. It's not about sex. It's not about male versus female. It's about balance. It's about equality. It's about each of us in our own life taking control of that and not blaming other people for results that are meaningless anyways in a world that's comprised entirely of energy. There is no scarcity. There is only abundance. There is only the ether. There is only energy. There is only a way to live your life by doing what makes you happy each and every day and not worrying about, oh my God, this person's not right thinking. which is what righteousness actually means, is right thinking, because they don't agree with me. Oh my God, somebody has a different perspective. Wow. Here you go. Have a cookie. Because at the end of the day, each opinion, each person's way of thinking can improve only when people are encouraged on how to think, how to express themselves, how to improve their language, not by telling them, do this, do this, do this. This is the way it is. This is the way it is. You should be ashamed of yourself for thinking other than the way that I tell you to. And that's what this election came down to. On one hand, you had an overt, narcissistic, troglodyte authoritarian that wanted to go back and to the good old days and look at the world through rose-colored glasses, that everything was all rosy, however many years ago, a dozen back when I was in office, on one side. And on the other side, you had a covert, narcissistic, authoritarian bully and progressive that couldn't get over the fact that people aren't going to think the way that I think, so they're useless. It's a matter of freedom of speech for everybody as long as they agree with what I'm saying. And that's why the Democrats failed to capture the White House, is because they failed to capture the imaginations of people. You have to give them hope. And the world is hope. That's all there is hope. And once you start blaming people for having an opinion outside of your own opinion, once you start doing that, you are going to lose focus on what's truly important. So don't run into an underground bunker just because you didn't like the results of the election. That is just fear mongering and brainwashing of the media that you have exposed yourself to. And don't be all, yo ho, now we can get after these people that have pushed me down for the last 4 years because their way of thinking is wrong. It isn't. And, we have a great opportunity to transcend the world. And nationalism, globalism, all two sides of the same coin. We need to protect each other. We need to protect our families and friends. We also need to protect the immigrants, the illegals, as you would call them, the down and out. But the best way to help others is by helping yourself and living your best life and not judging them for their way of being. It's about taking personal responsibility each and every day, acknowledging your choices were all correct. You've never done anything wrong in your life. And I'm going to say this to you. I hope you are with me. I hope you understand me when I say this. Love conquers all. And when you view each person with love, because each person that you interact with is helping you redefine and learn new lessons, the world changes in so many ways. That's when you can start creating your own reality. That's when you can move the needle in your life. And you have to accept everything that's happened in your life as an opportunity for growth. Whether it resonates with you or whether it doesn't resonate with you, ask yourself why that is. And if it's because, well, I was raised to do this, this, and this. Okay, so you were raised to do this, this, and this. Does that resonate with you? And why does that resonate with you? Why doesn't it resonate with you? It's all good. We can transcend everything. We can change our mind. It's not always easy to change our mind. It's not always easy to let go of judgment, resentment, guilt, or shame. But it can be done. It can be done once you acknowledge that each of us are equal. Each of our opinions are valid. Why do you think this way? Not what you should think, but why do you feel that? And as I say that to myself and I repeat that, it makes me give up my sense of moral self-indignation. It makes me realize that the whole way of being in life can be transformed. The whole education system can be turned on its head if I make steps each and every day towards changing that education system towards not what to think, but how to express what you already know inside of you. And that's what I'm going to be about for the next little while going forward, is about inspiring people to take a look at themselves and ask themselves each and every day, why do you feel a certain way? And how can I help you express yourself clearer? How can I use my energy to express what you need to learn? How can I help you help me learn new lessons, open my eyes to new possibilities? And I'm going to continue to do that. And I'm going to fire away passionately. And I'm going to be polarizing. And I'm going to go from cringe to comfortable to confident to compelling on camera. And I'm not going to try to solve people's problems because I know that I can't solve a single person's problem. The only person that can solve a problem is themselves. And they already know the answers. They just haven't been given that gold star. Well, if you're listening today, I give you the gold star to take a look at what's going to make you happy each and every day and go for it. To not be afraid of external circumstances. Just internalize yourself. Know what's going to make you happy, not what society says is going to make you happy, and live your best life. And as more and more of us live our own best life, people are going to take notice and start living their best lives as well. And we won't have the bitterness and resentment and judgment and self-righteous indignation and fear mongering that's defined ourselves up until now. So that's Coffee with Cam today. I love each and every one of you. Thanks for being part of this community. And going forward, love. And be grateful for these results because the best person possible is the new leader of the free world. And why is that he the best person? Because he is. And everything happens for a reason in order to propel us forward to a better life. So ditch the fear, ditch the anger, ditch the resentment, and just move forward as your own best self. Don't worry about somebody else and somebody else's way of being. Focus on you, and in that way, society will transform for the better. I know the answers to all of life's questions are within inside of you. You are energy, you're an energetic being, and life is amazing, life is magical, and life is the greatest gift of all. So, love you all. Have a great day, and see you tomorrow for another fun-filled edition of Coffee with Cam.